Got Your Eers On is brought to you by Tactical Legion Knives. Live from the campus of Tom Radio, under the direction of Guido, Scoot, and Johnson, it's the pride of podcasting. It's Got Your Eers On.
All right, everybody, hello and welcome to this week's episode of Got Your Eers On. Guido here along with Scoot.
Ho!
And Johnson.
We're just going to have to bounce back, Guido.
Bouncing back is going to be the theme of today's episode. And joining us for all of March Madness is Mr. Brent Solheim. Brent, thanks for joining us again.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure, guys.
It is something. I don't know if it's a pleasure. This week, I don't know if it's a pleasure because it was just a tough week. We dropped 2, we win 1, and the team that we beat, I mean, it was awesome to see Jalen have a great game against TCU, but TCU's not a good team. But we'll start with the Baylor game, which I kind of went into it thinking, guys, that if it's a loss, at least it was a good loss. You know, it was going to be a good loss. It was a tough team. Baylor is a good team, but you know, the talk going into that game was all Baylor's. You know, they're coming off their COVID. They're having a hard time getting everybody back. They had 8 guys that had COVID, and they're really, you know, sluggish. And then they didn't look sluggish to me in that game. I mean, what did you think, Brent?
I thought they looked good. You know, I honestly thought both teams, West Virginia, you know, our team and Baylor both looked good. They both looked like they could be an Elite 8, maybe a Final Four team. It was just a fun game to watch. You know, I recognize it didn't end the way we wanted it to end, but the way both teams were shooting the ball and hot, and you know, it went back and forth. It was a great basketball game. We just came up a little short.
Brent, I thought one of the things that struck me just watching that game was I didn't realize the size that Baylor seemingly had across the board. I mean, look at people like was it Vital? You know, just, I mean, he's one that sticks out because he's Scoot would call him a thickums, I think, but it's seemingly at every position. I felt like they had size for days. Now, I didn't feel like we got crushed on the rebounding edge, but everything felt like work that game around the basket.
I definitely agree with you there. I mean, they are a big, strong team, and that's just, you know, ever since Oscar left the team, Isaiah was injured. You know, we're a smaller team than we used to be, and we used to punish people on the glass all last season. And we're a totally different team this year, and it showed this game.
Scooty, Mark Vital for Baylor, he is kind of in the mix on every play for them.
Yeah, he's kind of, I guess for a lack of better way of understanding, he's kind of like our Gabe in the sense that he doesn't do a lot of things great, but defensively is where he really stands out, and he's always kind of in the way. To me, I really can't stand him because he is that kind of player. I guess that's maybe that's a compliment for him, is that I can't stand him.
Well, he had been National Defensive Player of the Year before, right?
I think he was in the running. I don't know if he was. I don't know if he won it or not.
Maybe a runner-up, or I think that was the conversation.
But he's a pain. What I noticed in this game, though, and I don't know, I don't know any inside information, but it felt to me like Derek wasn't the same in this game. He had 0 field goals. He scored all of his points from the foul line, which is ridiculously backwards for the whole, right. You know, for his whole career, really.
And 9 of 10 from the line that game.
Right.
Like not only
great.
Scoring at the line, but like really consistently.
Yeah. Like, I mean, he almost got a double-double with foul shots. Think about that. That was, you know, we would have never have said that 2 months ago.
Right.
But I don't know. It was something weird where we really didn't have an inside game at all. If you think about it, I mean, he didn't score inside. If we scored inside, it was driving to the basket. It wasn't anything from the low post area. So just kind of unusual.
Well, and like Brent said, though, we were shooting the ball well. I think I'm mixing my games here, but I think Taz goes for like 26 in that game. I think Sean McNeil had a really successful game. So, you know, the shooting was on, I guess, to make up for that, Scoot.
I'm glad you said that. I still believe Sean McNeil right now, for me, maybe in the I think he'll cement it by the time he's done at WVU. But like, if there's a guy with the ball outside the 3-point line, I want him shooting the ball because it doesn't matter where he's at. If there's a guy in his face, a guy hanging off him, if he gets fouled, at the very least it's going to hit the rim, and a lot of times it goes in.
Well, I think Fran Fraschilla, I think did like two of the 3 games this week. I think Fran did play-by-play on or color commentary on, and he said the same thing. That he said that he thinks Sean McNeil might be the best outside shooter that has ever played at WVU.
Brent, did you play with a guy that you felt like, hey, if I can just get this guy the ball on the outside, we've got a pretty good chance of seeing him score?
Oh, I have a guess for that, by the way.
Who's your guess?
Well, I don't know. I'm opening my big mouth here, but I feel like at the time when Brent was playing, Greg Jones was a guy that sometimes he would hit shots that you were like, oh, what's he doing? And then it would go in, and he would be like in the first row of the stands. So that's one person that comes to mind.
Yeah, I mean, GJ was a great shooter, great ball handler. That's, when I think back of my teammates, I remember him as being our best ball handler, most likely to break anyone's ankles. And he could get hot in a game like against number 6 UConn and just light them up. But, Jared West was a great shooter, Cyrus Jones, Greg Jones, Dave Ligori could come in off the bench and get hot sometimes. But we didn't have any shooters, nothing like Taz or McNeil.
Yeah, they're pretty remarkable.
Yeah, they are just phenomenal shooters.
The other thing in that game too, talking about foul shooting, we shot a crazy amount of foul shots that game. I think we shot 30 plus foul shots. We shot about 90% for the game, which for everyone that's been coming out of the woodwork to complain about our foul shooting, I don't feel like, Guido, you could really complain about that game. But having said that, and this is coming from me, someone who would normally not complain about foul shooting when we should probably complain about it, I try to give it a pass. But even for as well as we shot from the line, it felt like 1 or 2 foul shooting opportunities in that game really hurt, were really gut punches. One that comes to mind, I think wasn't it Deuce in that game, for as well as he played at the end of regulation, I feel like had he put one more of his foul shots down, it would have extended it to at least a 3-point game. Baylor would have had to work harder to tie it up and send it to overtime. That's one thing that stuck out for me for that game.
Well, and I thought it was interesting because in the post game, Huggins being interviewed complained about foul shooting. He's like, oh, we got to make foul shots when we need to make foul shots. And then you look at the stat line, they only missed 4 foul shots the whole game.
Yeah, I mean, so it's hard to complain about it. It just felt like just kind of like specific opportunities felt bad.
And it's one of those things, it was end of regulation, it was overtime. West Virginia played themselves in and out of the game kind of the whole time. But really, pulled it back in the second half. I mean, they were down going into halftime by 3, I think it was. They come back, they win the second half. It's tied into overtime. And, I mean, some big plays, it just didn't pan out. That last minute of overtime was just rough. I mean, Taz drawing the foul against Butler was a big play. JB hit a 3 there in overtime, another big play. But it's just one of those things. It's like, and it's another West Virginia loss by less than 5 points, or 5 or less. And if you go down the stats and you look, I think like every loss we've had this year except for one has been 5 points or less. The Kansas is the only game that, was that kind of blowout. So it's one of those things where, okay, it's a loss. It's we're on this 3-game homestand this week, 4-game homestand counting last Saturday. It's a loss, but it's against a really good team, a ranked team. It's not really going to hurt us in the bracket. And then TCU comes to Morgantown. It's Jamie Dixon has a team that is just not very good. And
woeful.
He has
maybe?
really nice hair though, right, Scoot? You love the Jamie Dixon hair.
I mean, what are we hiding here? I think we're hiding male pattern baldness. That's what we're hiding right there.
The slick back look.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Guido, you're not going to jump in here about the article of attire that had you so excited for this entire game. You're not going to bring it up or what?
We haven't gotten there yet.
We're getting ready to sail by this game like one of the most important things of the season to you didn't happen. I mean,
this is true.
You mean the anti-turnover chain?
Yeah, come on.
Yeah,
the anti-turnover chain.
Huggins
has the anti-turnover chain. Like he kind of came across like something you would see maybe in The Sopranos or something. I don't know. It was just something kind of like, whoa, what is going on?
What was the tweet that you forwarded me? It was, I think it was Fake Bob. I'll pull it up and link it in the show notes. But Fake Bob said, I might just mess around, get my 899th and steal your girlfriend wearing this chain.
Yeah, right?
That was hilarious.
Well, and I've never seen him do that before. I've never seen the chain.
I think he wears the chain. I think I've seen the chain underneath, but this was chain out.
The chain was out.
Yeah,
the chain was out. Chain out. I feel like if there a bet you think he lost that was like, hey, if you lose to Baylor, you got to wear the chain out, coach. I mean, or something. I don't know.
Was there a bet when Catlin wore the leather jacket?
We just all shook our head when he did that.
So yes, Huggins did bring, he had some nice ice around the neck there with the gold, the WV gold chain. It was a great game for Jalen Bridges. He gets interviewed at the end of the game on ESPN Plus. He gets a double, his first career double with 22 points and 12 rebounds, plays 32 minutes. So, and again, he looks like he's going to be a star for WVU, Brent.
He does. You know what? He's obviously put in a lot of hard work. You don't become a Division I athlete or basketball player by luck. Obviously he's put in a ton of work to get to where he's at right now. A couple things though, he can attribute to luck. He wasn't getting much playing time at the beginning of the year. When he came in, he was a little bit timid, wasn't sure his role on the team. 10 games in, our McDonald's All-American leaves. So that opens up some playing time for him. Right around the same time, another big guy blows out his Achilles. So here we are with Derek Culver, who's our double, and Gabe, who comes in, another big guy who is the defensive specialist and would much rather pass the ball than take a shot. So you talk about like, it's not luck that these things happen, but it certainly provided an opportunity for him to step in and show us what he could do. Probably sooner than I think Huggins had intended for that to happen. But, that three that he hit against Baylor was absolutely huge. He comes in, gets 22 or 24 and 12 versus TCU. He's really coming into his own game, and he's got, a lot of time left wearing the gold and blue. So I'm really happy that he's performing how he is.
Brent, I'm wondering too, like talking about JB getting interviewed afterward, I can't think off the top of my head, but did anyone ever catch you off guard and want to interview you after a big game? Or like, did you guys ever clown around when someone was getting interviewed and try to like make them laugh in the background or anything? Like, it just makes me wonder about that stuff.
No, not like that. So we always had, the reporters would always come outside of our locker room. I don't remember one time myself or any of my teammates getting interviewed on the court before we even left. We would go into the locker room before we'd take showers, but we would, meet as a team, and then we'd come out in our uniforms in like the hallway by the locker room, and we'd talk to all the media then. We had the cameras there. We had the newspaper reporters. But yeah, I don't remember anyone ever getting interviewed on the court. Not saying it didn't happen, but I don't remember that ever happening.
I think it's much more of it's definitely much more of a thing now, but we haven't even seen it. We haven't even seen it much this year though. I mean, I think you've seen it a couple of times with Deuce and maybe a couple of times with Derek, but yeah, we haven't really seen it much this year. But I think part of what helped JB in this game was that Jordan McCabe was out with a lower back sprain or lower back injury. They didn't really ever clarify what it was. So he didn't play any. That kind of, hand-tied the fact that Deuce was going to play the one mostly and not get, Deuce wasn't going to be able to get loose with Jordan playing the one. And so I think that helped JB get more time on the court, get the ball more, and get to show off a little bit.
Interesting enough, going back to, you mentioned Fran Fraschilla earlier, calling 2 of the 3 games. How about King McClure? I like him. I think he's going to be a great analyst in the future. He claims to be like the youngest analyst on network television or something. He's got some claim fame because he just finished playing, I think maybe a year or two ago.
Well, and I think most people do like him. I mean, I think generally when you look at the feedback, people dig him being in the mix.
I like him. He seems very knowledgeable. He's very open to discussing stuff. He's not. You can tell he's not. He's not. He tries not to be biased. I don't notice any bias. And I mean, I'm sure when he covers Baylor, he's got more inside information. Just like, I mean, they're not interviewing. They're not putting Brent on the Iowa State podcast because that would make zero sense.
Right.
That's why we have him on ours.
What you're saying is Dan Dockich, King McClure. You'd rather have King McClure. You don't want Dan Dockich's inside info. You want
no.
I don't think after last week Dan Dockich is going to be on the radio much anymore, or on the TV much anymore. Anyways, he had
I don't know that ESPN wants Dan Dockich's input.
Yeah, I think Dan Dockich had a little rough of a week.
But no, King is great. King is great. I'd take him or Fran any game.
And he's good. I mean, unfortunately, I hope that he starts to get more. Right now, King McClure's doing a lot of the ESPN Plus games, so you see him a lot on those games. So hopefully he'll start to get more network games.
I'll take him over Spatola. I don't even know that guy. Chris Spatola?
Yeah.
Spatula? Like, who is this guy? Played at Army? Come on.
Is that? I actually didn't know. Is that where he played? He played
I think
at
he's
Army?
got a jersey in the background of his when they do his home shot. You've got an Army basketball jersey. I didn't even know Army played basketball.
Well, Spatola always comes across like he's trying to be clever, and then I always like as they're going to a commercial break, he'll give some kind of one-liner, and instead of being like, haha, I'm usually like, what is he talking about? Like, what was he trying to do there?
Well,
that's what he always makes me think
I blame him for a lot of the Moeller High School, the Oscar Shibwe, the what other storyline am I forgetting? Like, I feel like he's the one that
JB at Fairmont.
Yeah,
like,
he recycles those things like no other.
Yeah.
And we get him like every other game, so it's really annoying.
Well, we're getting Fran all next week. We'll talk about that here in a second for the Big 12 championship. So finishing off the TCU game, the other thing that kind of happened that was very strange in that game was the fact that Gabe Osabuoye fouled out. He got all 5 of his fouls called within 12 playing minutes of the game. It was a little rough on him.
Treat yourself.
Treat yourself. After the third or fourth foul, he just looks so like perplexed at fouls being called on him. I felt bad for him there.
I don't know that he was following what Marshawn Lynch advises. He was not checking his mentals.
Or his chicken.
Counting his chickens and checking his bread.
Well, in fairness to Gabe, though, I continue, and maybe I Brent, this is one I'd like to ask you too, because maybe it's evolved over time, but I feel like the charge block call, that's going to be forever a debate, but I feel like there's a lot of times, and we're going to get to it, I think, in this Oklahoma State game, there were some calls where, I don't know how much more in position I feel like Gabe has to be on some of those, and he still gets a block called on him, and I think that happened to him in TCU once or twice. That's kind of his thing. So when the refs aren't calling it, the way where he's, getting the benefit of his feet were set and so on, that I think that has to be super frustrating for him, because that's what he's out there trying to do.
It's definitely, I'm sure it's frustrating for him. Now, one thing that officials and will never admit, and some people don't want to talk about, is they had the Jordan rules back in the day in the NBA about, if anyone breathed on Michael Jordan when he was shooting, he got the foul. Now, people jokingly said that, but there was some truth to that. Now, Gabe is not our star. He's our blue-collar worker, and he's not going to get some of the same calls that a Miles McBride is going to get. I hate to even say that, because it's not like Miles McBride is an NBA All-Star and Gabe is trash, because that's not true at all. But, the referees, if that was Cunningham from Oklahoma State, he's not fouling out. He's not. They're not going to call. Point. Yeah, they're not going to call him like that on a superstar. And Gabe, he's our garbage man around. He does all the right things that other people doesn't want to do. He takes charges, sets picks. gets assists. His assist to turnover ratio is crazy for a big guy.
Yeah, he's not going to get the benefit of that. Though.
Yeah. He's not going to get those calls like a superstar would underneath. And it's frustrating because I've been there.
Brent, how frustrating is it? I think a lot of calls, this is my perspective, you can tell me if I'm wrong, like a lot of referees will anticipate what they think is going to happen and they'll blow their whistle, and then what actually happens isn't what they thought was going to happen. Like they think, oh, there's going to be contact here, I'm going to blow my whistle. Our guy gets out of the way or whatever, never makes contact, but there's a foul called. Did that happen to you a lot? And I mean, how frustrating is that when that happens?
I don't know. I mean, when you're playing, you can't really say, that particular incident happened. But as a fan watching games, I think it absolutely happens. They see someone coming in and, someone goes up to challenge it and no contact whatsoever, yet there's a foul. I do think that happens, Scoot.
Well, and I like you said, I think, too, sometimes referees are humans, so they we all judge and perceive people a certain way. So if I perceive Jordan McCabe to be playing out of control, I'm going to assume that it must have been a charge and not a block.
100%.
Right? I mean, so you start to kind of categorize people and say, well, there's no way he possibly could have, been blocked. He plays out of control 90% of the time. Well, I guess my point is, sometimes officials need to officiate what they actually see, not what they're thinking they're going to see.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Scoot, are you going to become a NCAA official?
I feel like I should be the guy that the announcers go to for the rules clarifications.
Oh, yeah.
Like they have in the NFL when they do like a review.
You'll be like the Gene Steratore of the Big 12.
Yeah, you'll be the Scoot Steratore. Yeah.
Yes, I would like to be that. Scoot Steratore.
Not to belabor it, but we hammer the officials. I mean, like, on the text machine, I'm always texting
like
you guys.
The fact that I know certain officials' names, that's a problem.
Right.
Well, yeah, and like during not to circle back to Baylor, but just for 1 second, I remember texting you guys a couple times. This game's way too fast for the officials right now. Like it's just moving way too fast. There were some calls like I don't know what game they're watching, and I usually say that, but. And I felt that way in the Oklahoma State game too. It's like there were some calls like I don't know what they're looking at, but man, and even fouls on Oklahoma State that I didn't think were fouls. Both ways.
There was times in that Baylor game where I was like, man, this is all like maybe the NCAA needs to start thinking about putting 4 officials out there for some of these games. I mean, as fast as these games have gotten at the college level. I mean, I feel like when you watch an NBA game slower on the court than a college game is now. And so I'm with you 100%, Johnson. But moving on to the Oklahoma State game, I guess we'll start with the fact that, and Brent, I really want to get your opinion on this. Big game for Huggins. Oklahoma State 17 ranked, not a team to sleep on, 100% not a team to sleep on. But big game for Huggins, the chance to get his 900th win in the Coliseum in front of fans, and the team looked just flat. I mean, I saw you put something out on social media. I've heard it all over WVU Twitter. It's probably, I mean, of all the and all of us have watched every game this season. To me, it was like the flattest that they've looked all season. And I don't know if it's, it was a tough week, 4 games in a week. You had these 3 games in the middle of the week. I don't know what it is, but like what causes a team to come out like this and just play so flat?
Well, I think it's, playing 3 games in 5 days is definitely a lot. Yeah, I know you look at the box score and it's like, oh, they played 20 minutes, 33 minutes, whatever, and you have a day of rest in between, but when you play a game like Baylor, and it goes to overtime, it's not just the extra minutes, but it's such an emotional game. It takes a toll on you, and then you don't get the day off the next day because you got to prep for your game the day after that. And then same thing with TCU. All right, hey, Bridges has a great game. They can't go out and blow some steam off because they got a game 2 days from then. So it's not only physically taxing to play 3 games in 5 days, but it's mentally taxing as well. Now you have to play 2 games in 3 days sometimes in the NCAA tournament when you play like a Friday, Sunday or something like that. But the coaches have already scouted the next team. You may, if you have the first game in that first round, you may watch the second game and, start talking about the team that day. But 3 games in 5 days is a heck of a lot of basketball. And to lose to Baylor how we did with extra minutes, I'm sure they're all beat.
Yeah.
Brent, when you have, let's say you have a 7:00 game, right? What time do you show up at the Coliseum to get ready?
Well, we always had, we had a pregame meal. We'd have a shoot around earlier in the day. So you'd come over and you'd shoot around, noon or 1, do a walkthrough in your street clothes. 4 hours before the game, so at 3:00, you'd have your pregame meal. And then after that, you'd normally, might chill out for a half hour, but you're back in the Coliseum by, I would say, no later than 5 for a 7:00 game. You got to get dressed. You got to get taped. You want to get out there and shoot around some. I mean, it's a full day. It's a full
you're
day.
looking at a minimum, including game and then post-game, you're probably looking at least 7 hours committed just to being in the Coliseum itself. That's not even mentally preparing for the game. That's just going to the facility itself, and then you tack on the fact that, oh, by the way, they're still in college, right? So I'm sure they still have some schoolwork to classes and schoolwork and things to possibly worry about at the same time. Not that I'm looking to make excuses, but like you guys said, that many games with that amount of time devoted to basketball, plus all of the other things that they're thinking about, plus let's throw in the pandemic, the social distancing, concerns, because stuff that you used to do, Brent, when you would go, you weren't thinking twice about, do I need to wash my hands? Did I touch my face? Did I, am I too close to anybody? I don't want to be the reason why the team gets, put on pause. So there's a lot of extra stress, I'm sure, there as well. So it's probably pretty exhausting. You get to the end of the week, you're probably pretty tired.
Yeah, like I said, it's not just physically, it's mentally exhausting. I was going to bring up, hey, on top of everything you just said, schoolwork as well, because they're student athletes. They're not professional athletes, they're students. So they still have all of those responsibilities. I remember I had a lot of classes with Scott, and those engineering classes aren't easy. So it's not just the class, you got to study for them. And you're not getting the opportunity to, like I said, blow off steam after the game. Not that they're going to go out and club all night or anything like that, but you're going to be cognizant of everything you do, win or lose, because like you said, you don't want to be the person that gets sick and makes everyone else sick, and you're not gonna postpone games at this point in the season, and any game now is going to be canceled. It's got to be an extremely stressful season for these guys, and I can't remember a more stressful season for any reason that anyone would have had in college basketball ever.
Yeah, and I think too, to me, not only a stressful season, but then this whole reschedule has kind of compressed everything probably into the most stressful part of a stressful season, right?
Absolutely.
So
right.
I think on top of that, though, WVU Twitter kind of did its WVU Twitter thing after a normal loss, like, we all go off a cliff anyway, right? So I was trying not to read too much of that, but the prevailing theme ever since Saturday's game was defense is terrible. Defense is horrific. We didn't play any defense. Can you believe this defense? And I kept, having a day to kind of chew on it. I mean, we talked about this with Brent, maybe not last week. I think the week before when we were talking about our games, we noted it. I think our good shooting, and Scoot, I think you'll agree with me here too. Our good shooting this isn't a new thing. This isn't a new theme, but our good shooting has covered up and kind of peanut buttered over some poor defense. And I thought as Oklahoma State, especially in the second half, we gave up 51, I think, in that second half against Oklahoma State. We're watching them run essentially a layup and dunk line, to the basket seemingly every trip. It felt worse in that game, but it didn't feel like anything new. What felt bad to me in this game was shooting, I think 40% from the game, which Josh Witt would tell you that's not too bad, but shooting 20% from three felt like you didn't get those normal, points that get you over the hump on some of this poor defense. And I think those things just, Cade Cunningham and Scoot's favorite Ice Likely in or out, whatever. I just think you hit a few more shots. I mean, we only lose by 5 after all of that.
Right.
You hit a few more shots, Taz and Sean get a little bit hotter there. We actually probably pull that out. So to me, that poor defense to me, that's always been lurking in the background this whole season in all these games, but the shooting has kind of helped us overcome that. I didn't think that was there Saturday.
I just, so a quick stat right here. So their top 3 guys, Anderson, Moncrief, and Boone, their top 3 scorers from the game, shot just over 76% from the field.
Oh my gosh. But I guess that's staggering, to be honest. Like, that's crazy talk. But I guess when everything is 4 feet from the bucket, I mean, you can shoot a higher percentage, right?
50 points in the paint for that game. So, I mean, it's true. I mean, I can't imagine that those guys, I bet you of that 70% of those points, if not more, were in the paint. Huggins came out after the game and pretty much, I mean, the first thing he said, before Tony Creedy even asked him a question, he was like, they had no bounce today. We had no bounce today. And so, I mean, I think Huggs, and again, going back to what Brent said, I mean, I don't know. And as a coach, you can't make excuses. You can't say, we've had to play all these games and these guys are exhausted, which is more than likely the case. But, Huggs was definitely, hard on him, talking about how they had a lack of enthusiasm and they didn't have it today. But he did make one comment that I thought was really interesting about Derek Culver. And he said that he didn't really say Big 12 officials. He just said he said they need to officiate Derek like they officiate everyone else. And Derek had a tough day. He got those 2 fouls early. Fran Fraschilla called it with 10 minutes left to go in the first half. Fran Fraschilla was like, yeah, you're not going to see Derek Culver anymore this half. And it's more often than not now we're starting to see that. Derek gets in foul trouble, early on in the first half. Huggins doesn't like guys to, if you get 2 fouls, you're sitting on the bench for the first half. And it starts to put us in these positions where, when Derek's not in there and he's starting to rotate out more guys.
Well, this is where the depth and the size, that's where we start to see it. I mean, I think Senny Njai will be a serviceable big man at some point. It's just not this year. I don't think he's ready. And a lot of times this year he's been kind of thrust into spots where in previous years there's no way Huggins puts him on the floor. So I think that Isaiah Cottrell's injury might be, in a lot of ways, more significant than the loss of Oscar Tshiebwe.
I agree, Scoot, 100%. And that's kind of where I was getting at. If I'm a team going into the conference tournament next week and I'm looking at tape and I'm trying to figure out how we're going to play WVU, one of the things you're going to tell your guys is try to draw fouls against Culver early. And it's definitely one of those things that going into next week, going into the tournament, I think WVU's got to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, and Brent, you talking about those stats of their big guys, points and percentage around the basket. I think another glaring spot from that game too that kind of just compounds it is we got pretty well out-rebounded that game too. I think we got out-rebounded by maybe 9 or 10 rebounds, which I feel like is not like us, even with this team that's a little more finesse maybe than some past teams. That, to me, that was a big eyebrow raise too.
Yeah, when Culver's only getting 20 minutes of playing time, it's tough to get a double-double. He had 14 points, 5 rebounds, but in 20 minutes, it's tough to get 10 rebounds. That's very difficult to do. So he goes to the bench. Someone comes in and replaces him that isn't the rebounder that he is. Next thing you know, we're getting out-rebounded by 9 rebounds. So we need him to be on the court to help that stat in particular.
And Guido, one last thing. I mean, for as great and huge of a contribution as JB had in TCU, he comes back in this game, and I think in pretty significant minutes, he really didn't even get many shots up. I don't think he had a point for the game, which was unfortunate.
Yeah, only 3 shots, no points. So it's definitely tough when the guy who was hot the previous game comes back and is cold as can be. WVU finishes the regular season 18-8, so that's good. 11-6 in the conference. We should be happy about that, especially after previous years.
7 of 8 losses by 5 points or less. Is that right?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's a killer.
Other than the Kansas game?
Other than the Kansas game, by 5 points or less, 7 of 8 losses. So, and I think out of everything come out of this, guys, one of the most staggering numbers to me is we were 8-5 at home. We were 7-2 on the road.
Crazy. Yes.
This team that, what was it, February 2 years ago, we lost every road game or whatever it was. Like, this team now, can play on the road, has proven that they can play on the road, and 3-1 in neutral sites. So it's interesting going into the Big 12 tournament, which we're going to take a break here in a second. We're going to come back and talk Big 12 tournament prep. But I do want to make one comment about this team as we think about it. Taz Sherman all but announced that he is not coming back for his free year. He puts out on Twitter, it was great to play. Sorry we couldn't win it for hugs. It was great to play my last game, in the Coliseum as a Mountaineer. So I thought that was interesting.
Well, he put a maybe.
He did put a maybe.
He put a maybe in parentheses.
He did put a maybe in
parentheses. He gave you a maybe.
There. All right.
I'm hanging on to that maybe.
You're hanging on to
Don't
that
take that maybe away. Yes, the maybe's in there.
Well, let's take a break. We're going to come back and talk about how we dropped from chances of being 2nd to 4th in the Big 12 tournament and do a little preview of that. So don't go anywhere. You're listening to Got Your Eers On.
Vortec Knives is a West Virginia owned and operated company specializing in high quality steel, fast opening, everyday carrying knives. If you go to vortechknives.com today and use the code GYEO, you get a 25% discount on your entire order. That's Vortech, VORTEK knives.com, a West Virginia owned and operated company specializing in fast opening, high quality, everyday carry knives. Vortec Knives.
All right, welcome back to Got Your Eers On. Guido along with Scoot Johnson and Brent Solheim here. Don't forget, check us out on our social media. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter, Got Your Ears, or you can look for us on Facebook. Just search Got Your Eers On. Well, we're going to take this segment and talk about the Big 12 tournament. What is it? The Phillips 66 Big 12 Championship is what they call it. And WVU is a number 4 seed in that tournament. With the loss to Oklahoma, we dropped to the chance of being a 2, or chance of from a 2 to being a 3 or a 4. Texas beat TCU on Sunday. We then move on and become a 4 seed. And guess who we get to face, boys? Oklahoma State. So back again, the team that kind of broke our hearts this past week. We will now face them on Thursday at, get prepared, 11:30 a.m. Eastern time.
Whoa.
So, yeah, I don't know. Take a half day, take a long lunch.
That's a killer. Nobody's going to be able to watch that.
Nobody's going to be able to. It's 11:30 a.m. on ESPN against a Cade Cunningham back in the lineup, probably Oklahoma State team. How do we feel about this going into playing Oklahoma State again, Brent?
Well, I think there's going to be a chip on their shoulder from this last game, Cade Cunningham or not. I still like us getting the W. I really do. I think, a few days rest, we're not getting over the Baylor loss anymore. Now, if I'm playing for WVU, I'm ticked about the OSU game. I want to get coach his 900th win. I think we come in, we play aggressive, hopefully not Derek Culver because we don't need him in foul trouble, but I like our chances in this game.
Yeah, and I think we do too. I know we have recency bias. I mean, this loss here Saturday feels so bad, but if you don't forget that first meeting, we beat a full strength Oklahoma State. And in that game, I'm just peeking back here at the box score. Derek Culver went for 22 and 19, and maybe that's what it takes, in that type of a game. But so I think I'm kind of in the camp with Brent. I mean, I feel like as long as they can put this behind them, then go out and put your best foot forward. We can definitely get it done. I just think the effort that we saw Saturday though has to be and I don't know if I want to say, it's not really, I don't want to say effort, that's the wrong word, but just the energy level. I just felt like we looked flat. So I think we come out, we're probably angry. we're probably mad about how that game went, and hopefully we have more of an edge.
I think had we lost by between 15 and 20, I'd be concerned. I'd say, oh boy, this is an uphill climb. The fact that we lost by 5, to me, that's still anybody's game. 5 points, you can score 5 points in under 10 seconds. It's a toss-up. So I think with what you guys have said, the fact that we're going to come in a little bitter, I think that's going to help us. And I think we'll be okay. I think these guys, like you said, are motivated to get Huggins' 900th sooner rather than later. I don't think they want to wait until the NCAA tournament. And I think that they're motivated to prove that maybe this was a fluke, that Oklahoma State shouldn't have won. And I think you'll see, guys like Taz Sherman. I know Taz was kind of upset because, could have been his last home game at the Coliseum. And I'm sure he wants to go out with a win, so maybe that's why he's going to come back. I don't know. But I think that they're going to be motivated. I think you're going to see the shooters hit. And I think it's going to be a good game. I like that it's at 11:30. That'll kind of kill the hype.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it being that early game will help us out with that. Brett, so talk to us a little bit as from a player's perspective. You've done this before where you've gone into these conference tournaments where it's win and play the next day. You could be playing 2-3 games in a row, day after day. What, mentally, physically, what kind of preparation goes into getting yourself ready for a quick 3 days or a quick tournament like this?
Okay, so I can't speak to any deep runs in a conference tournament because we did not have them. If I remember correctly, from my senior year, we lost our final 3 games of the regular season and our very first round in the in the Big East tournament. So we were in a massive slump. The coaching staff gave us 3 days off, and then we came back, and Selection Sunday happened, all that, and we knew we were going, and we practiced hard, and we came out and we blew Temple out by 30 in the first round of the NCAA tournament. So. Even if we've lost 2 of our last 3, and even if we somehow drop this game to Oklahoma State, that does not mean that we can't do something special in the NCAA tournament.
And luckily, to be honest with you, of all the trips that we have to take, all the travel that we have to do in this league, the trip to Kansas City, Missouri, not that bad compared to some of the other Texas trips that we have to make.
Yeah, relatively, right? Yeah.
Right? So it's not a horrible trip. And I just think it's one of those things where these guys, they've shown this year how resilient of a team that they are. The coming back by being down by 19 twice. I think coming into this tournament, they'll have that resiliency. They'll want to go on. But the worry I have on the other end is like, okay, I don't want to see them give it all up just to win the conference championship. Is there any concern about something like that where you worry about, hey, let's win the conference championship, but then it's all, you've run yourself exhausted for going into the NCAA.
Well, hey, if you remember back to 2010, I believe we won the Big East tournament. Then we made a run to the Final Four, that same team. So, this is a good chance to build up some momentum going into the big tournament.
Yeah, and Guido, I think they're going to need that resiliency because one of this loss to Oklahoma State is kind of like the gift that keeps on giving, right? Because now not only do you have to face them again, but you've put yourself in Baylor's side of the bracket. So, if a win against Oklahoma State's going to be a battle, and then hey, your reward is most likely playing Baylor that next game. So you talking about resiliency, they're certainly going to need some.
Yeah, because Baylor plays that game at 2:30 on Thursday, and they play the winner of what is probably going to be the most exciting game of the whole tournament, the game 1, which is Wednesday night at 6:30. You can watch TCU play K-State.
Oh.
Like that should be a barn burner of a game right there.
I would, if I were the networks, I would play that game in black and white because nobody likes purple. Nobody wants to see 2 teams in purple. It's ridiculous. If Kansas State wears those ridiculous, faded crayon uniforms, and they wear that stupid every man is a wildcat mask. No, it's not true. Not every man is a wildcat, and it's stupid slogan.
In your seeding, what if we seeded a bracket of most annoying Big 12 coaches? This is sort of like a 1-2 matchup, right?
Hey, it is a 1-2 matchup.
The only good thing is we get one of those turkeys out of here, right? So one of those clowns is knocked out, so we don't have to deal with them. And I hate to say this. Well, I don't hate to say it. I kind of like to say it. I think Bruce Weber, the seagull from what is the movie?
Finding Nemo.
Finding Nemo. I think,
Mine.
I think he's going to get eliminated, and Mr. Comeover is going to move on.
Yeah, that's possible. The game 2 is Oklahoma has the 7th seed against Iowa State, which is at the bottom. They're the number 10 seed, Iowa State. I forgot Iowa State even had a basketball team this year, to be honest with you. Did we play them? I think we played them
Isn't
twice.
it crazy that Oklahoma is a 7 seed as well as they've played, during the conference season? I mean, I don't know. It's just a reminder of how crazy and tough this conference is. And Guido, I'm with you. How is Kansas still the 2 seed
I know.
in this tournament? It's so frustrating. Like, how does
It's so frustrating that Kansas is the 2 seed.
I don't feel bad for Oklahoma because they deserve it. What with the guys they got, I think Oklahoma, yeah, they've played us well. I can't stand them. I think Johnson, you and I have talked about it. They've got a roster full of guys.
Oh yeah,
that I wish would play Grayson Allen on a regular basis.
Right? No, they definitely do. They definitely do.
Oh, that Brady Manick, come on with this hair, and Austin Reeves. Those 2 guys alone are my least favorite players in the conference.
Yeah, I think Austin Reeves, Brady Manick. I mean, I think if we were listing an annoying players of the conference, you might go 3 deep on Oklahoma before you get to a different team, I feel like.
Yeah.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me though if they end up, I mean, if you look at who, they'll end up playing most likely they are playing Kansas. I'm just trying to look at this bracket again. I guess we pretty much with Texas taking care of business, I guess we do have all of our seeding. So it looks like, they're going to play a hapless Iowa State team. Then they're going to have an opportunity to play Kansas. And it's not out of the realm of possibilities that they win that game.
They beat Kansas this year in Fog
Allen.
Allen.
I think it was at Kansas. Yeah. So to me, that's going to be an interesting game too.
Yeah.
This will be the only time I am ever excited to see something good happen at Iowa State. I typically
so you'll be a Cyclone fan, is what you're saying.
This might be the only time, other than my daughter's possibly going there. If they were to ever go there, that would be the other time I would ever think of Iowa State ever in my life.
Well, you can root for them in that 7-10 game then, Scoot.
I will, and I gladly will, because I'd rather see them go on than that would be just a real kick in the pants to Kansas.
And then so then you've got Game 6, which is Thursday night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That's Texas Tech versus Texas. 2 games on Friday, 6:30 and 9:30, and then the championship game is on Saturday at 6 p.m. on ESPN. Brent, going into the tournament like this, the guys who are further down on the bench, the Spencer Mackeys, the Jay Moores, Senny Njais, the guys that don't get a lot of playing time, the younger guys, how important is their role in practice, in preparation, during the game, when they know that they, during the conference tournament, chances are during the NCAA, they're not going to get to see any of that, junk playing time.
So typically you get the top, the guys who play a lot, your top 8, maybe top 9 guys, normally run against the bottom guys in the team in practice as they're, they're running the plays that the other team offense is going to run. So their role, although they don't see the court, it is important not only to, run their plays, execute them like the assistant coaches, when they're calling, Oklahoma State's plays. But those guys are just as, in the locker room, in the hotel rooms, they're every bit as big a part as the team as everyone else, keeping morale up. They have an important role, even though they don't see the court during the actual game. So, they can definitely have a positive impact off the court. And, it's always fun to see a team that the bench is really engaged into the game. I know a lot of times in the past you'll see the ESPN crew or whatever network the game is on, zoom in on the players on the bench because they're having so much fun and keeping their teammates up. So they do have an important role, and hopefully our guys can contribute.
I will say, like, if you watch Spencer Mackey during the games, like if you ever watch, those commercial breaks or when something big happens, Spencer Mackey is one of those guys, and I know everybody loves him because he's the small white guy that gets in and shoots the three, and that's what he's known for.
Averaged 35 points in high school. He's not a slouch. Like, the guy.
I know he's not a slouch. I mean, he could school. Well, maybe not Brent, but he could school the three of us, right?
He averaged 35.
But like, he is one of those guys, though. He is always up, jumping around. He's always in the huddle. He's never one of the guys standing off in the back. Scoot, it's just, for me, it's like that would be the role I'd want to play if I was on WVU. I don't want to be out there with all the pressure of having to play all the time like Brent had to. I want to just be the guy who like is on the side cheering and like glad, having fun.
They're like, Guido, you're in. You're like, what?
These are the best seats, man. These are great seats. I'm so glad.
Wasn't it St. Bonaventure
Right.
and their bench that used to, like, I don't know, they played guitars or something, like when guys would score, or some kind of like where they would do different things every time somebody would score.
Yeah, they would do like they'd act like, somebody fainted, and then the other guys would catch the guy and
Yeah,
stuff.
they had a whole skit orchestrated
Yeah.
before the game even started. And you could tell they're having fun.
That would be Guido. Guido would be like, listen, guys, here's what we're going to do. Taz hits a three. Here's what we're doing. Like, he's probably got cue cards.
Scoot, you pass out, I'll catch you. I feel like that's kind of like your job in this podcast, Scoot. You're kind of like the Spencer Mackey of this podcast.
I am the guy. I've got the cue cards. I'm kind of like the guy that holds up, like, I'll hold like on football sideline. I've got the Chick-fil-A. I've got a picture of a cheeseburger. I've got a Speedo, and I've got Corvette and on a big cue card.
Yeah, you'd be a good backup quarterback. Like, you'd be an amazing backup.
I can hold a clipboard.
Do we know if, I'm assuming there's still limited fans allowed in for these games, right? I mean, they're allowing some capacity.
Correct. There is going to be fans in there, and so it's a limited capacity. And the other exciting news is the play-by-play guys are actually going to be there.
Oh, okay.
Fran Fraschilla is going to be in Kansas City.
So it's not going to be. There was a technical foul. I'm not sure who or what the technical. He's shooting technical foul shots.
Something must have happened.
We're not there. We'll have to find out. I'm going to guess he probably said something. Can't really tell. Like, that's what happened. Was that the? I think that was the TCU game.
Yeah, they were like, "What's going on?" So, all right, guys, let's make a couple of predictions here. For what we think is going to happen this week with WVU. We face Oklahoma State. We will likely after that face a number 1 Baylor if we win that Oklahoma State game, to then have to play in the championship game. How deep, Johnson, do you think WVU goes in the Big 12?
You're going to start with me. That's very unfair. Okay, well, you know what? I'm going all in because here's why. I think they're angry about this flat tire at home against Oklahoma State. I'm going to say they avenge that. They only got one shot at Baylor. I think they want a second shot at Baylor after losing in overtime. I think they run it. I think they run it all the way to the championship game.
Scoot, what do you got for thoughts?
I think they go to the semifinal. I think they beat Oklahoma State. I think they will. It'll be a close game, but I don't know that we'll beat Baylor. So that's where I put us.
I'm kind of in the same boat as you, Scoot. I think that Baylor team, now back 2 weeks, more healthy than they even were when they played us. I think that's going to be a tough team to beat because that is a number 1 seeded team in the NCAA tournament. That is a very, very good team. Brent, You want to give your thoughts?
I think we beat Oklahoma State. I think we lose to Baylor, and then I think we make a run to the Elite Eight in the NCAA tournament. I'm calling it right now.
I like it.
Oh, okay. All right. I like that.
I couldn't go out and just say, hey, we lose to Baylor and that's it. You know, we got to end on a positive there. What do they call it, like a positive sandwich? Start with a positive, a negative, and then end with a
I don't know
positive.
if that's the kind of sandwich we call that, but we'll call it that.
Yeah, right.
Scoot would still put cheese on his
I
positive
would
sandwich.
definitely put cheese on there. There's cheese on everything.
Scoot definitely puts cheese on his positive sandwich. There definitely is some cheese there. Well, Brett, thanks for joining us this week. We'll see you next week, Selection Sunday, talking about NCAA fun and breaking down whatever happens during the Big 12 tournament.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, listen, we're going to take a break and come back with the #1 game show on a West Virginia University sports podcast. It's a little game we like to call Bluff the Fluffs. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Got Your Eers On.
Tactical Legion Knives, a West Virginia owned and operated company that specializes in heavy-duty tactical knives and gear for the professional warrior, the weekend warrior, and the outdoor warrior. Our products are built tough. For who? For warriors. Hey Mountaineer fans, make sure you go on Amazon and search Tactical Legion Knives, and when you do, make sure you put in the promo code 25TOBRADIO for Tob Radio. You'll get 25% off on Tactical Legion Knives.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Got Your Eers On. Don't forget, check out our website, gotyourearson.com. It's kind of like the hub of everything for us, right, Johnson?
Yeah, that's right. So you can find the latest blog post with all the show notes of stuff we talked about, probably some stuff we didn't even get to. And then, of course, we have the merch store links there, too. And if you're interested, Scoot's wearing his today if we were streaming at the time. But you can still get your Pullover Guy shirts. We're already taking up donations for next year. So it's all right there, including a link to the TuneIn listening spot right there on the sidebar. So check it out.
Yeah, check it out, gotyourearson.com. Well, in an odd way, we're doing it third segment. It's time for the #1 game show on a West Virginia University sports podcast. It's a little game we like to call Bluff the Fluffs. And last week, Scooty won on Beavis and Butthead trivia, pulled a lead now of 5-3, Johnson. You should be a little nervous.
Well, last week felt bad because I feel like it was one of those, we said this last week, BTF can kind of be a heartbreaker, right? You get to Final Bluff.
Final Bluff.
I feel like I had held my own on Beavis and Butthead 90s trivia, and then Scoot pulled it out at the end.
Guido has chosen
loss.
to help you out this week by making the topic public schools in the Martinsburg area.
All right, let's do it.
No. This week's topic, because we're going into the Big 12 championship tournament, is questions about the Big 12 championship tournament. So we'll see what your knowledge is of, because we all love the Big 12 so much, your knowledge of the history of the Big 12.
Okay.
So just remember, you get 5 points for a correct answer, 10 points for a steal, and Final Bluff is worth 25 points. Before we started, we had a complete and total random flip of the coin, and Johnson, you get to go first this week.
All right, let's do this.
All right, let's do this. Here we go.
My wealth of knowledge, Scoot, on Big 12 tournament and Big 12
raise
conference.
your hand if you paid any attention to the Big 12 prior to 2012.
Yeah, none of us did.
Yes, negative.
I mean, to be honest with you, I'm not sure I paid that much attention of it the first couple of years we were in either.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not sure I remember if Kansas City is in Kansas or Missouri. You know what I mean? Like, I'm spotty on this
it's
stuff.
in Missouri. I think this is in Missouri. This will be educational for you and all of our listeners. So I've got a good feeling now. I think this will be fun. All right, here we go. What was the first year for the Big 12 Conference Championship Tournament? What was the first year they did it? Was it 1992, 1987, 1997, or 2001, Johnson?
I think, Guido, this is 1997.
That's correct. 1997 was the first year, Johnson. That's impressive. You answered that like you knew the answer.
Well, I can't remember, Scoot, were they the Southwest Conference before that or the Big 8, or there was some rendition of schools?
I didn't pay attention to anything west of the Hudson River.
It was like not the Hudson River.
So if it was west of the Hudson, I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, I was thinking mid to late 90s. So
All right, here you go. All right, Scoot, this next question is to you. Johnson got that one right. He has a 5-point lead. Kansas has the most Big 12 basketball tournament titles with 11. Who is second? All right, who has the second most number of conference tournament titles? Is it Kansas State, Oklahoma, Texas, or Iowa State?
This is an interesting question. I don't know. That's tough. I'm trying to think. So, oddly enough, I do know a little bit of Texas history. Tom Penders was the coach at one time. I'm trying to think if he did anything worth talking about. He did have a perm, so there's that.
Always hair.
this is filler while Scoot tries to decide.
Iowa State had Larry Eustace, who's best known for picking up the co-eds at local parties.
And being named Eustace.
Yeah.
I mean, who else has that?
Who else has that?
Come
Yeah,
on.
nobody else has that name.
You said Kansas State?
K-State, yep.
I don't even know that they existed prior to Bob Huggins being there.
And Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, Kelvin Sampson. I will say Oklahoma.
That was exhausting to get to the wrong answer.
That was a whirlwind tour of your guesses about Big 12 sports. Scoot.
All right, so it's not Oklahoma, Johnson. Is it K-State, Texas, or Iowa State?
Well, I was debating between Oklahoma and Texas, and since Texas is still standing, I'll go with them.
Ooh.
Is it Iowa State?
Sorry, that's
It's gotta be Iowa
incorrect as
State.
well. It was Iowa State.
Yeah, Larry
Iowa State has
Eustace.
4 titles. Yeah. Iowa State. So you make fun of Ames, Scoot.
Well, they had that Hilton Magic back then.
Yeah, I wasn't taking the magic into account, Scoot.
All right, so nobody gets any points there. And Johnson, this next question is back to you. Of the 4 former Big 12 teams, which one has won the Big 12 tournament? Okay, so these are 4 teams that used to be in Big 12, aren't anymore. Which one of these teams has actually won the Big 12
Okay.
tournament? Nebraska, Texas A&M, Colorado, or Missouri?
I'm going to go with the Tigers.
That's correct. 2009, 2012, they won before they left the conference.
And let's be honest, they should still be in that conference.
Yeah, they should.
They should.
They
still be in
should.
that.
So
And
should Nebraska.
I believe Texas A&M should also still be in this conference.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Colorado's kind of an outlier. I feel like they're
Yeah.
not strong and stuff.
No, Nebraska's fine. I mean, I feel like they're okay, but I agree, Missouri should still be in
I don't
this
feel
conference.
Nebraska fits the Big Ten, though. It's too far west.
Me either.
All right, maybe. All right, so Johnson got that right. He's got a lead now, Scoot, 10-0 on you, but this next question is back to you for 5 points. Who was the most valuable player in the 1997 Big 12 championship tournament? Was it Chauncey Billups, Paul Pierce, Scott Pollard, or Jacques Vaughn?
Ooh.
All guys who went on to play in the NBA.
3 Jayhawks and 1 Colorado Buffalo. You said most valuable player in the conference tournament?
In the conference tournament, yep.
97. I am going to, so I think Paul Pierce is actually my age, so I'm going to guess that he would have been later. I'm going to go with Jacques Vaughn. Oh, son of a gun.
All right, Johnson for 10 points and the steal. Chauncey Billups, Paul Pierce, or Scott Pollard?
Well, my gut feeling was Paul Pierce, so I'm going to go with him.
You should always follow your gut. Yes, Paul Pierce was the Big 12 tournament or MVP in 1997 when Kansas won the first ever Big 12 championship tournament. All right, Johnson, huge lead, 20-0 right now. And this next question is back to you. How many times has Kansas won the regular season championship but not won the conference tournament? All right.
All right.
Is it 0, 3, 8, or 6?
Wow, this is tough, Scoot. But not won the tournament. Well, they've won so many regular season titles. I feel like the volume could be high. But I'm gonna go with 3 times.
I'm sorry, that is incorrect. Scooty, is it 0, 8, or 6?
It is 6. I'm feeling it. Hit it. Oh, God.
No, that's incorrect. It's 8. Counting last year, counting 2020, where they ended up canceling the Big 12 tournament, but they won. Kansas won the regular season. It's 8 times that they have won the regular season, but not the tournament.
All right.
Well, their football team sucks.
Yes, that is true. We can all remember that. They have a horrible football team.
Stupid chrome face mask.
By the way, just not to get off on a tangent, but I think you're following this story about Les Miles and
May not
maybe
last
getting
long.
fired. Yeah,
Yeah,
potentially.
I saw that too. Not looking good.
That might be for a future show.
He and Dan Dockich might start a podcast in the next couple of weeks. Could
Oh,
happen.
boy.
Okay. Anyways, Scooty, you're down 20-0. You haven't got any points right now. Big goose egg for you. But this last question before Final Bluff is on to you. How many times has WVU made it to the Big 12 tournament championship game?
Okay.
Is it 1, 2, 3, or 4?
I believe it is 2. Son of a mother.
I'm sorry, that's incorrect. Johnson for 10 points and the steal. Is it 1, 3, or 4?
Well, I think Scoot's thinking of the back-to-back years we went, right? But I think it's 3 times total.
That is correct. Johnson right there gets 10 points and the steal, and now has a lead 30-0. Scoot, you don't have a chance to win, but we're still going to do Final Bluff.
Thanks. That's a real pat on the back.
You can at least make it respectable. All right. All right, here you go. As we always do, Final Bluff is worth 20, unless Johnson wants to wager 5 more points on it. No, well, Final Bluff is worth 25 points. A correct answer. As we always do, we have you guys buzz in. Johnson, what's your buzzer this week?
Winner.
Okay. All right, winner. I like it because you're not going to lose this. And Scoot, what would your buzzer be? What's your buzzer this week?
KU.
All right, here we go. 25 points. Scoot's just trying to make it look respectable. Johnson's leading 30-0. In 2008, Kansas won both the Big 12 and the NCAA tournament, but shared the regular season title with another team. What was that team? Was it Oklahoma State, Missouri, Texas, or K-State?
KU.
Scoot.
I don't know when Kevin Durant came out. I'm going to say Texas.
That's correct. 25 points. And Scoot, you don't make it look so bad. You only lose by 5, 30-25. Congrats, Scoot, for making it look respectable. Texas lost to Memphis in the Elite Eight, and then Kansas went on to beat Memphis in the national championship game.
Memphis with John Calipari.
That's right. Johnson, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
You won.
Feels good.
Closing the gap again. You just keep it. You're neck and neck. Now 5 games to 4. Feeling pretty good about it, I hope.
Scoot, 1 game back, as we might say in the summertime.
I mean, you're in the rearview mirror, so I'm okay with it.
1 game back. Hey, and good news, Scoot. Well, just one last WVU thing before we wrap it up for this week. Neil Brown came out this week. Head coach, football team, in case you didn't know that. Talking a little football. Neil Brown came out this week, says there is a competition for starting quarterback between Jared Dagey and Garrett Green.
Well, he has to say that because if he doesn't, Garrett Green's looking to transfer. I mean, I think we all feel it should be Garrett Green.
I mean, you definitely feel it should be Garrett Green.
100%.
You're pretty vocal about it.
100%.
Well, we'll talk football here in a month or so as we get into the spring game. But we've got a big week this week. WVU plays Oklahoma State, 11:30 on Thursday on ESPN. The first game for us, at least, the first game for the Big 12 tournament, which goes on for the rest of the week. Next week, we'll be talking Selection Sunday and WVU going to the big dance. So make sure you tune back in. And also, don't forget, you can find us online. Look for us on Instagram, on Twitter, at Got Your Eers On. You can also find us on Facebook. Just search Got Your Eers On and look for our website, gotyourearson.com. Thanks to Brent Solheim for being on the show this week. He'll be back next week and all through the month of March as we talk WVU basketball. Have a great week, everybody. Let's go Mountaineers. You've been listening to Got Your Eers On.